Hello, it is Greg Bilby with Kentucky's Heartland.com. And with me this morning, I have my friend Ashley Purcell. Ashley is with us this morning. And I almost put the graphic over your face. Sorry about that, Ashley.
That's all right.
That would have been a bad deal. I'm working on that. But this is, again, Kentucky's Heartland.com. You can find us anytime on Instagram and, of course, on Facebook. And also, please subscribe to us on I was almost said MySpace again, but that's not where
not
yet.
MySpace.
YouTube.
All
you
the
can
cool
subscribe
kids are on
to us
YouTube
there.
now.
This is one of the segments that I've been excited about doing with Kentucky's Heartland.com. It is because our logo, which a lot of folks have seen up in the corner, and I'll just put it there, it resembles a power button because we wanted Kentucky's Heartland to be talking about things and people that are powering the Heartland. And you and your wonderful family are people that are powering the Heartland. And so I wanted to talk about that. And this little segment is kind of like the heart of the Heartland.
All right.
Because you guys are doing some amazing things in our community. First of all, I want to talk about foster care.
Okay.
And because your story and what you guys have done is just absolutely inspiring to me and to my family and the people that know you. But let's set this up by talking about foster care in the Heartland, because it's a pretty sad situation.
You know, it's interesting, Greg. A couple of years ago, I knew that there were foster kids. I knew that there were foster parents. I knew that there were probably foster kids at my kids' school and in their classrooms, but we just really didn't talk about it. It was kind of like this unspoken understanding that, yes, they're out there in the community, but we don't really talk about these foster kids. There are almost 10,000 kids in the state of Kentucky right now in foster care. 10,000. Think about that. That's a lot. That is a football field full of kids. And so if you're thinking about that, you can almost become frozen with thinking, I can't do anything about that. You know, you have this bird's eye view of all these kids and you think, there is nothing I can do about all of those kids. And you're right. We can't do something about every single one of them, but we can do something about one or two or three. And so 3 years ago, my family, just through a lot of prayer and honestly a lot of begging my husband, we decided to open our home to foster children. And we went through the trainings. It's not something you can do overnight. It's not something you go and sign up and say, hey, I want to be a foster parent, and then they hand you a kid. It doesn't work like that. But through the training, through going through either a private organization or through the state, and sitting in the classes and hearing these heartbreaking and gut-wrenching stories of what our children have been through and what they're going through, we just decided, yes, this is what God's called us to do. And so we opened our home 3 years ago, and 17 kids later, we've had in and out of our home. Here we are.
And I don't want this to sound bad, because I don't mean this, because I love you guys. But how do you make that decision? Because, how did you and Scott decide that this is what you wanted to do? Because I know it, and it's not just you and Scott, because I know you had to sit down with the entire family and make this decision. How did that go? I mean, and was it just like, yes, we're all on board? How did it happen?
So after our daughter was born 10 years ago, I knew that we couldn't have any more kids. Some health problems, we just couldn't have any more. But I wasn't finished. Our family wasn't complete. Sometimes you'll hear people say, yep, we know we're finished. We have these kids and we're done. Our heart's full, we're done. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't there. And I've always known that God called us to do something more. I'm the oldest of 8 kids. I've always had a lot of kids around me. I knew that we just wanted something else. And so we started pursuing what it would look like to become either an adoptive family or a foster family. And I started doing some research and started telling Scott that he better get on board, better start praying. Here's what was really cool. So yes, it is the entire family. We set our 2 biological children down one night and we started talking about this, and we had this dialogue. And our son looks at us, and he at the time was, he was 9, I think, 8 or 9. And he said, we have such a great thing here. We have so much love in our home. Why wouldn't we have other kids here to experience that? Okay, boom, done. if our kids can get on board like that, why wouldn't we do that?
You don't normally would think that's what you would hear. You would think you would hear, we have such a good thing going on here.
Why mess it up?
Why are we going to change it and mess it up?
Yeah.
So it was a family commitment.
It is,
truly
absolutely.
Family commitment. And I see your family is committed because I see them at church and I see them roaming the halls and doing their brotherly.
Chasing the children.
Yes, chasing the children. That would definitely be what they're doing. But so once you got on board, I mean, you just don't go and go, okay, I want to sign up to be a foster parent.
Right.
So you don't sign your name to a list, check a box, and they hand you a kid.
Right.
What's involved with becoming a foster parent?
Okay, so for us, what was involved was going through some classes through the state. We decided to go through the state. There's also other private organizations out there that you can be a foster parent through. So there's several different entities. I would just say do your research on that and whatever is the best fit for you. So for us, we sat through the first session, I guess, the first class where they tell you the horrors of foster care because they're trying to be honest with you. It's not a pretty picture. Foster care is not pretty. Something has happened. Something is wrong that these children have to be placed into foster care. So it's oftentimes we try to paint it as this pretty picture and it's not. It's messy and it's hurt and it's sadness. And so they gave us some of that nitty gritty. And then we just kept going back to the classes. It didn't scare Scott away too much. So we kept going back and through the classes and then through home visits, and Scott built 2 sets of bunk beds and we rearranged a lot of furniture. We got our home ready to welcome children in. And when the time came, we had our first child who entered our home.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that you as a foster parent or a foster family have faced or could face? And also talk about the kids because, I think that's one of the things too. We forget about the foster kids,
Absolutely.
Because this is a challenge for them.
Yes.
And almost all the situations, they've done nothing wrong.
Right. It's not their fault.
But they feel like maybe it is.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that foster parents and kids deal with?
We have a lot of unknowns. There are so many unknown variables in the world of foster care. Are we going to get a call in the middle of the night? Are we going to welcome in 5 kids or 2 kids or 1 kid? Are we going to have children who come to us with no clothes at all except a T-shirt that a social worker put on them because their clothes had to be taken in for evidence? Are we going to go pick up a child from the hospital? Or are we going to have children brought to us in the middle of the night? How is this going to impact our biological children? What school are we going to send these children to? How are we going to arrange daycare? How are Scott and I going to protect our marriage and make sure we still get a date night every once in a while so that we can make sure we're okay? How are we going to spend time with just our biological children and do some heart checks and check in with them and make sure they're still okay? What baggage are these children going to bring to us? Not just mentally, physically, emotionally, but also all of their belongings in a garbage bag. What is it going to look like and what impact is it going to have on our hearts and our minds and our story? There are so many unknown variables. And when you think about all of those unknowns, it often makes people go, I could not do that. There's no way I could do that. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, Greg, I can't either. I can't do this. Scott can't do this. Our family can't do this, but we do because God's called us to this place. Yeah. And so because he's called us here, we're just going to keep powering through. And I mess up a lot. We mess up a lot. But I will tell you, the impact the children have had on our homes and our hearts and our story, it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's so worth it. But these kids, like you said, they come to us and it's not their fault. Big people in their lives have messed up. Big people in their lives have made big decisions that impacted them. Whether it was they have a drug problem, or maybe there was some neglect or some abuse, or they just couldn't get fit to be a parent right now, or they have a lot of things they need to work on. It's not the kid's fault. And so our job as a foster parent is to help those children understand that it's not your fault. And we're going to love you through this mess.
How do you do that? Because just putting myself in the mind of a foster child. When they walk into a home, it's a new home. How do you make them feel comfortable that they can go to the refrigerator and get a snack, or the cabinet and get a snack when they want? How does that process work? Is it
It is not overnight. It is when you welcome a child into your home, it is over and over saying, you belong here. I'm so glad you're here. I am for you. I am going to protect you. I'm going to love you in the right way. And what is here is yours, and you're safe. And I think helping them understand that they are safe and that they are wanted is the most important thing we can do. And the other things, they fall into place. Making sure that their basic needs are met and making sure they understand that those basic needs are going to be met over time is key. We had a little girl come to us one time, and she stood in front of our pantry, and she just looked, and she said, what on this shelf can I have? Which one is mine? And I said, honey, what are you talking about? Anything in that pantry is yours. She didn't understand that she could have anything in there, that it wasn't just one snack that was hers, but the whole pantry was hers for the taking. And so it's having to rewire their brains. Yeah. A child who has been removed from the home, no matter what their story at home looked like, that is their home. And they've been removed from it, so they're in trauma. And so how do we love a child in trauma? And it's not, I can't love these children the same way I love our biological children. I can't show them love the same way. We have to help them understand what is safe and what is healthy, and we have to help rewire that brain.
So not every family is wired to be a foster parent. I just, with work schedules and other commitments that you have, it's hard to do that. But not every football team can have 20 quarterbacks.
We need our water boys.
And I would be a good water boy.
I've
always been great at being a water boy. But what can we do to help? Because, I can't be the quarterback. I can't commit to doing that. But you need somebody on the side to help. But sometimes you don't know how to help.
Sure.
And I know you have created this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing called the Orphan Care Closet. And it's an opportunity for families that are in an emergency situation. Right. They go, we just have 2 kids that we just have, but we do not have enough clothing for them. We don't have a bedding, and I know you're not accepting any
don't bring me
clothing donations because
right now we are full.
You're full, but that doesn't mean somebody can't help. Right. How else can they help?
So I'm a hugger. I love hugs. I love wrapping my arms around people. It's a little awkward sometimes. People are not always huggers like I am, but this idea of wrapping around foster families and adoptive families and kinship. And I do want to speak to that for just a second. Because we have seen meth and heroin, a crisis in our community, we have grandparents and aunts and uncles who are stepping up to the plate right now and raising their family members. So that's called kinship care. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of people in our community who are raising family members to try to keep those children out of the foster care system. They are stepping up. And so you have a grandma who's on a fixed income who all of a sudden is having to buy diapers or extra food or clothing. So we're not only for foster families, but we're also for any family who needs to provide basic needs for the children in their home or in the community. So we want to wrap our arms around them. It's a wraparound program. So we're going to provide basic needs, whether it's clothing through the Orphan Care Closet, and anybody who needs clothes, come and get them. We have a lot for children if they've found themselves in a tough spot, or like you said, a foster family who just received a couple of kiddos and they don't have what they need. They can come to us, or I bag up and box up things and take them to them, or some of our local private agencies send their workers to us to get things. That idea was birthed out of one night we got a phone call at 11 o'clock at night, and we needed to take in 2 kiddos. And I wrestled around. I ran around our house. I went through drawers. I went through a stash of clothes we had to find what these children needed, because when they came to us, they literally had on men's t-shirts and that was it. And so we birthed this orphan care closet out of that. So a foster family never has to try to scrounge around to try to find what they need. We can do that. We can meet that need for you while you focus on what you need to do, which is loving on these children and welcoming them well. So you can do that. Another thing that I love is when I know that a foster family is getting a new placement, calling them and saying, hey, what's your favorite topping on your pizza? And going ahead and calling a local pizza place and have it delivered to that family, so that, again, while they're welcoming these children well, they're not having to worry about what they're going to feed their family that night. Yeah. So helping provide a meal. You know, there are a lot of doctor's appointments that our kiddos need sometimes, whether it's therapy or, getting some checkups. And sometimes you don't want to take all the kids with you. So if you want to volunteer to babysit some of the children or help drive somebody around, that's another way you can wrap your arms around a foster family. And also, there are biological parents out there right now who are fighting really hard to keep their kids. And instead of us coming around all the foster families after the children have been removed, what would it look like as a community if we helped these biological parents fight to keep their kids as well? So instead of being reactive once the kids have been removed, what would it look like if we were proactive and wrap our arms around these biological parents as well? Sometimes the only thing they need is a ride to go to the parenting classes that they're supposed to go to. Sometimes all they need is help fixing a gate in their home to make their home safe so that they're not getting marked for neglect. Sometimes all they need is a coach, a good coach. Like you said, a football team, they can't all be the quarterback, right? But we need coaches too. We need mentors. We need people to wrap around biological families, kinship care families, foster families, and adoptive families. This is the Heartland, and these kids all belong to the Heartland.
That they do.
And so let's wrap around all of the kids. And
you were mentioning ordering a pizza and sending that to the families. Can people get gift cards and bring by the orphan care closet? And that way, when because I may not know that situation, but you will. And as people are reaching out, and I know you've got your network of folks that you guys talk to, can people just bring those by?
Sure. Absolutely. If you want to bring by a Kroger gift card or a restaurant, McDonald's or any of the restaurants, they did not sponsor this. So
no, they didn't pay a dime. Not one.
But any of our local restaurants, bring us those gift cards and we will distribute them. Or when I know that a foster family is getting a new placement, I'll run and grab them some dinner and take it to their house. Absolutely. There are so many ways that we can wrap around our families. Another way is we need respite care providers. So not everybody can be the quarterback, but we need the second string quarterbacks. We need, I don't know football very well except for the Georgia Bulldogs. Yeah. But we do need.
That took 17 minutes and 55 seconds for her to mention the Georgia Bulldogs. That's a record.
But we do need all players on the field. And so sometimes that looks like a respite care provider. A respite care provider is a person who has been through some training. They have a background check, and they are approved to watch foster children for 24 hours or more. So I can get a babysitter to come to my house as long as they're over 18 and I trust them. It's called a Prudent Parent Act. And if I would do it for my own kids, I can do it for my foster kids. I can have a babysitter. But if it's going to be more than 23 hours, I have to have an approved person who's had background checks and had the training, and that's called a respite care provider. So maybe you're not at a place where you can take in children all the time and be a foster parent, but you want to help another foster family out and be a respite care provider. Scott and I just celebrated 15 years, and we would love to be able to get away, but it's really hard to get away when we have our 5 kids, and who's going to watch them overnight?
Yeah, but knowing you and Scott, you guys are just you're all in. So you did get a break, but where did you go?
We went to a training.
You went to a training in Louisville instead of a dinner, but
that's okay. That's our heartbeat right now, though.
And and that is, you guys are part of the heart of the Heartland, and that is this is exactly why Kentucky's Heartland.com was created, because the stories of what you're doing and what other people are doing, there are so many stories of people doing amazing stuff in our community.
Yes.
And we're going to put information on the site at Kentucky'sHeartland.com, and you'll be able to get information on how to get a hold of Ashley and how some of the items that we talked about that you can help with, maybe some links to some training things. We're gonna whatever you need. We're gonna put that information there because it was a lot. This was a lot.
I feel like they
information
just
to
had to
drop.
drink from the fire hydrant.
They did, and I did too.
But Greg, here's the thing. Not everybody can do everything.
Right.
Not everybody can be a foster family. Everybody can do something. Community, we are better together. So let's link arms. Let's fight for our future. Let's fight for our kids.
Yeah.
We're better together.
I mean, they're a future.
They're
Definitely worth fighting for. Yeah. She's Ashley Purcell. Scott Purcell's not here. I like Scott a lot too.
Scott would not be here.
No, Scott would just literally. Scott did the same interview he would have done if he were here. He would not said much of anything.
No. I'm the voice box of the family.
So there you go. But Ashley, thank you for all that your amazing family's doing, and it's been an honor to feature you on Kentucky'sHeartland.com.
Thank you.